So before we start, I wanted to give a little framing and context of the webinar today, especially we are presenting about the war abroad and the war at home, and talking about how U.S. intervention and neoliberal intervention is are impacting these 4 different countries, especially the social movements that represent Afro descendant people, as well as feminist struggles that are waging the resistance fight here. We are living in a time when U.S. imperialism is ramping up attacks against people and challenging their inalienable right to self-determination. At the same time, there's a great deal of organized resistance mobilized to defend the will of the people and defend sovereignty. In Haiti, Honduras, Venezuela, and here in the US, Afro-descendant people and indigenous people have historically been at the forefront of fighting liberation struggles. So we framed today's conversation within the war abroad and the war at home, not only to link US government as the perpetrators of wars inside and outside our borders, but how our struggles are linked to the rich history of resistance. Today's webinar will start with Haiti, which is the first nation in the world where the slaves won in 1804, as we call it, the Black nation that gained self-determination, and its significance in the Americas and all around the world, and how we're continuing that struggle. We'll be talking about some of the work of the Garifuna people who have been organizing in Central America, protecting their land by engaging in various spiritual, cultural, and political resistance, despite the Honduran government's effort to erase their history and culture. Especially the powerful role of women as land protectors in a rich matriarchal society. We also will talk about some of the inspiration that we find from Venezuela and the Bolivarian Revolution, that has not only organized to uplift the most oppressed folks within the country, but have organized regional and economic cooperation, as well as solidarity economy among the Caribbean and Latin American nations, because one nation alone cannot resist the neoliberal economic order. So we will be hearing kind of from all these rich social movements who are also building on the legacy of slave revolts and the historical lessons of self-determination, the Quilombos and the Maroon societies. So we hope that today's conversation is just a beginning to continue, these rich kind of lessons around the liberation movement around the world. So with that introduction and framing, I would like to first introduce our first speaker from Haiti. Gislaine Fleur is the coordinator of the women's program. Oh, sorry. I'm just reading that the interpreters are asking to slow down. I'm gonna have the interpreters catch up. And for those of you who are trying to, who need a Spanish interpretation, we posted the number on the Zoom chat line. I'm going to repost it while we take a break. So we're still trying to figure out the connection with Haiti, with Gislaine right now, and our Creole interpreter. So I'm gonna actually move to our representative from Honduras and have her speak first. So are the interpreters ready? Thank you. So our first speaker is Carla Garcia. She is the International Relations Coordinator for the Honduran Black Fraternal Organization, otherwise known as OFRANEH. And she is currently working inside the US to visibilize the struggles facing the Garifuna people, especially to international allies and social movements across the world. So she will be talking about her work in the context of the most recent round of U.S. intervention, especially after the overthrow of Manuel Zelaya in 2009. What are the conditions that the social movements have been facing, in particular with Garifuna women and the U.S. attempt to try to falsely lure women, Garifuna women, out of the land and having them migrate here as a form of displacement tactics. As well as she would talk more about Garifuna society and what does the organizing around protecting the land look like. So Carla, whenever you're ready to speak.
Start. My name is Carla Garcia. I represent the Black Fraternal Organization of Honduras, which is an organization founded by the Garifuna people, which was a mixture of indigenous from South America and African, a community that has about 6,000 years of being in existence. And this organization defends human rights of the community and of Mother Earth and human rights. And this moment of our work has really extended to work on human rights in Honduras. As I said, my profession is the international relations. And so I work with our community to contribute the best ways that we can to work and to move forward to make a collectivity, a collective that functions. And so I want to begin by speaking a little bit about what is the Garifuna community, because it's a relatively new community. It's been named a Patrimony of Humanity by UNESCO. And so we're speaking about a language, spirituality, a way of living, and a collective and community way of living. And also our community, the necessity is, and so in the Garifuna community, because it's a matriarchal society, because necessity has obliged us to be that way. I was hearing the translation, sorry. I'm sorry. The women had to take the reins of the community, of educating our children, and to continue giving our cultural contributions and spiritual knowledge to the future generations. So right now, OFRANEH, our organization, is passing through one of the hardest moments of history. The Garifuna community, not just the Garifuna community, but also the Honduran community.
Hello.
And so this has turned into one of the most difficult times. So OFRANEH,
Hello.
We're also fighting for our right to our territory.
Yeah.
The Garifuna community,
Hello.
for 100 years of living in Honduras, automatically is the possessor of the territory that we're living on. And there are 52 Garifuna communities all along the Atlantic coast of Honduras. And we also have a Garifuna community on the border with Guatemala and with Nicaragua. But it happens that exactly our way of life, which we keep this unity and union with Mother Earth, and we do not abuse nature, but rather we live together with Mother Earth, exactly in the territories where we have always lived, are the best taken care of, have the most natural and exploitable resources. These are now the territories that are being annihilated from companies both within the country and also from outside of the country, whether it's Canada or United States or some countries in Europe, such as Spain or China or Japan. All of these names that I'm mentioning are part of the problem that we're living right now as a community, and our leaders are being persecuted. I would like to always make the special point that the struggle of the Garifuna people didn't begin with the coup after of Celaya. It got more difficult after that time, and it became more brutal after that time. But that's not when it started. Our struggle has been 40 years long, fighting for the right to our territory, because there was this idea of tourism, having tourism on our communities, but we are not wanting to be involved in this process of installing whatever the tourist facilities would have to be for the tourism that they're talking about it. And so they saw us in the Garifuna community as nothing more than people that could be clowns for the tourists, that could clean the hotels, but we are never going to be in agreement in these kind of jobs. We want us to be, we want for them to take us into account. And so we want to find the way to because if jobs are offered in our communities, then people are going to begin to leave from these communities. And so there arrives a point in which we have a problem of migration outside of the Garifuna communities towards the United States. And so the problem in the Garifuna community started in 2013 when the first grand contingent of migrants arrived to the border of the United States. And so they were that they should take them to school in the United States. They were told them that so in 2013, we had the United States, specifically a lot of women and their children who arrived, and they were in migratory limbo. In order for women to continue giving birth to the children that are going to be populating the Garifuna communities, they were coming to the United States and they were occupying this uncertain space. So for these Garifuna women, and exclusively from the Garifuna community, there's an ISAP program. And when these women crossed the border, they were going to be let free, and they were going to be able to go to their family member's house in the United States. So there was a pilot program of a GPS monitoring that was practiced on these women. And so this was an incredible thing that happened. It was incredible for us because they were treating us as slaves. They took us to a place where the Garifuna community had never been. But because of the waves of undocumented people that were arriving, they couldn't detain us all in the same space. So from the Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, the waves of migrants were coming. and had been coming for more than 30 years from this territory. So the Northern Triangle Project in these 3 countries was actually the same as an academic project that was happening in New York. And it arrived to fame, it became famous about 8 or 10 years ago because of the model city. So let me explain. The model city is a project in which a country hands over a specific territory to a foreign country, and in this territory that was handed over, they can do whatever development project they want to do. It's an idea that's been around for 100 years, but it was finally put into place in Honduras. So when I'm speaking about displacement of our territories and the displacement of women and their children, they begin to arrive to the borders of the United States as a result of these projects. And for us, it's not a coincidence. But we realize that the oligarchy is frankly linked to these economic situations. So the Honduran territory has been handed over. Mothers have been handed over. The woods and the rivers have been handed over. But the thing is that we're still there in our territories. We're still living there. We're still resisting so that they don't take away the opportunity for us to continue living in our territory. And so the fact that the indigenous people and the Black people in Latin America we live more in unity with Mother Earth is a problem for these developers. And it's a problem in terms of that goes against the way that they see the world, because the system is trying in some way, our system is trying to live in balance with Mother Nature. But after the coup d'etat in Honduras, we see how this government becomes even stronger in its repression of leaders, men and women of the community. And I think it's very well known, the assassination of our compañera Berta Cáceres. And there were 2 women in Honduras at the front lines of all of the struggles. And one was Berta Cáceres, and the other one was Mira Miranda, who's the president of OFRANEH. And the impunity has allowed that after the assassination of Berta Cáceres, there's been a lot more assassinations of indigenous leaders and of leaders of the Garifuna community. And so a whole lot of things like this have been happening. And right now, the OFRANEH Directors Council is being threatened and criminalized for any little crime, specifically by the government for carrying out this project of resistance. And so something we don't often talk about is that there are a lot of people from our same community, Black or Indigenous, that are fighting oligarchic interests or that are working for the oligarchic interests to do their dirty work. But I would like to talk a little bit about what we are doing to be able to counteract all of these things that are happening. There's a process in the Garifuna community, which is the recuperation of our territory. The government has always said that we are losing our territory or that we don't need it. Because it's not being so or they had been taken for some kind of tourist development.
Carla, tenemos que seguir con la otra presentación, si puede terminar, y vamos a tener un chance para también continuar la conversación durante las preguntas. Gracias.
Okay, so the time has run out, but I will end with this. One of the recuperations of our territory is in one of these people are gardening, they're harvesting in the Garifuna community. And I would like to go through each of the important points that we're doing in terms of resistance, but thank you so much for giving me this space, and I'm definitely here for the questions and answers.
So thank you, Carla, for that presentation. We will have a chance to have folks raise questions, especially around the coup and U.S. intervention during the Q&A. So please post your questions on the Q&A on the Zoom chat room, and we will make sure we take stock of it. So the next presenter is Gislaine Saint Fleur from Haiti. She is the coordinator of the women's program FAN MPP, or the Peasant Movement of Papaye in Haiti. She coordinates the technical training and advocacy activities under this program, which has close to 20,000 women involved from the Central Department. The advocacy activities focus on the fight against violence against girls and women. MPP's main work also engages peasants and farmers in rural Haiti to build climate resilient adaptation projects focused around food sovereignty. So I've been requested to slow down. So just in the context of Haiti's recent uprising, especially in response to the Petrocaribe funds gone missing and the rise of gas prices, there has been uprisings recently. And we, Gislaine, it would be great if you can explain a little bit about the kind of under the last 15 years of UN military occupation and other neoliberal occupation, how has the social movements have been resisting, especially around MPP's work around women farmers? What are the women farmers organizing and resisting in terms of
it's clear. It's
vision?
clear, but
thank you.
Yeah.
So I think we're waiting for translation.
Okay. Okay, can I translate now, guys?
Yes.
Okay, she said, oh, wow. Okay, so, she start by saying thank you to you for having chosen her to speak this afternoon with you. Her name is Gislaine, and she's a member of the Mouvman Peyizan Papay, the movement of the Peasant of Papay, located in the center of Haiti. Gislaine, vous m'êtes parlé? Oui, alors, une description de, bref, description pour qui ça a gagné protest en Haïti qu'on y est là et qui est en situation, ou si tu es capable de parler brièvement des 15 dernières années, qui est en situation politique là, qui ça qui travaille MPP fait. Parce que il y a un pile protestation contre le gouvernement Jovenel Moïse, qu'on y a là, risé en tombé, yo ta remè gen information sur ça parce que généralement information ça yo médias tant que CNN pas parler yo de ça qu'a fait Haïti yo.
Giannetti, would you mind interpreting what Gislaine is saying in English, please?
Yeah, but I'm listening to her now. She is about to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, so Gislaine said Haiti at the beginning, Haiti, the place where Haiti is located, there were native people called Taino. Okay, Haiti, when Christopher Columbus and the Spaniard landed in Haiti, they killed all the native. Actually, it was the most important genocide in modern history. Yeah, it's what I said before. It was the most important genocide on earth, on the modern history. So, in order, okay, on va te parler. Okay, and after the genocide of the Taino, they went to Africa and enslaved many men and women from Africa. So they took us from Africa and they enslaved us in America. So, and then the enslaved people, they challenged the colonial system and they used two-man instrument, two-man stool. It was their language, Haitian Creole, and their religion, Haitian Vodou. So, and then our ancestors, the Haitian people, they challenged the system, and Haiti became the first Black republic in the America. So after the independence, Haiti was named the mother of liberty or mother of freedom. But these okay, but this sentiment of proudness didn't last for long because of the complot of both the national and international actors. Okay, in 1804, Haiti has a population of 400,000 people, but now we have 11, combien? 11 million? 11 million of people. Okay, 12 billions in 2018. So actually, Haiti, when Haiti started, 80% of the country was totally covered by a green space. But now, what's the percentage? Qui pourcentage là, Gislaine Kounia? Uh-huh. Mhm. And then before, Haiti has also self-sufficient, food. Haiti can maintain the population in terms of food, providing food to the population. But now Haiti is dependent of both the Dominican Republic and the United States of America to provide food to the people. So actually, between 1915 and 1934 occurred the first U.S. occupation of Haiti. And the U.S., they installed a tutelage in Haiti. So now she will speak about the social movement in Haiti. So it was during the 1970s that the peasant was able to reorganize themselves and fight for their freedom. So the movement of the Peasant of Papay was founded in the year 1973, and at that time, Haiti was led by the Jean-Claude Baby Dog Duvalier. So it was after that Baby Dog left Haiti in 1987, many social and popular organizations will grow up. So at that time, after 1986, we have observed many student organizations, women organizations, peasant organizations, and so forth. But the overthrow of the former president Jean-Bertrand Aristide in 1991 will challenge the social organization and the popular organization. But this grassroots organization, even though we were living in a situation of authoritarianism after the overthrow of Aristide, those grassroots, they still fighting or maintain a resistance, political resistance. So now one of the big challenge for those grassroots in Haiti is because we have NGO, non-governmental or international NGO that have been trying to co-opt the grassroots in Haiti.
And June Eddie,
yeah,
if you can let her know she has 3 more minutes to wrap up.
Ok, Gislaine, yo dou ke for synthétiser ou gen seulement 3 minutes ki rete. Ok. So at the beginning, okay, now Gislaine is talking about what MPP, the Movement of Peace and of Papay, have been doing throughout during the last 15 years. So she said at the beginning of the movement was controlled by what I can call masculine domination, because they didn't have many women in the movement because of 2 factors. Because of fear, many women fear to enter in the field of politics, and then their husband didn't allow them to participate in the kind of movement. Okay, actually, the main focus of the women and MPP, the Movement of Peace and of Papay, they have dedicated their attention to the promotion of women's rights, protect women against violence, and also the protection of the ecological system or the environment, and also they have advocate in citizen responsibility. Okay. So also the MPP has focused on sustainable agriculture too. Now we have women in all the structure of MPP, in all the hierarchy. In all MPP we have women. So also MPP has helped many young women to attend college, to go to college, and to also participate in the education of the peasant. So
So, John Eddie, would you mind communicating? We have to wrap up and.
Okay, Gislaine, you do for fini parce que là, il est arrivé. Okay, so there, by en conclusion, Gislaine, conclue. She's giving now her conclusion, okay? So she said, thank you to you all. She would like to also talk about the current political situation in Haiti and its consequences on the social movement in general and the women's social movement, but there is not time to do that.
We'll get a chance during the Q&A for her to answer those questions.
Li di ke, ok, yo di ke pa gen problem, pral gen moun ki pral pose ou question, lan question réponse yo, wap genye opportunité pour approfondir so pat gen tan di. Okay, she said thank you. She's on the line waiting for your question, guys.
Jeanette, can you put yourself on mute and interpret for her? Thank you. So we will, for folks who have questions coming up, please please write into the Q&A box on the Zoom chat. And for Spanish speakers, you can email ana@ggjalliance.org. Los que hablan español pueden mandar su pregunta a ana@ggjalliance.org. And so thank you, Gislaine, for your presentation. During the Q&A, we would love to have you further expound on the current situation. So next speaker we have is Alejandra Laprea. She is a militant feminist and part of the Violet Shade Collective network of feminist spider, La Araña Feminista, and she's also the national coordinator for the International World March of Women Venezuela. As folks know, the current context of the U.S. is continuing effort, coup attempt, and destabilization efforts didn't start just recently, but since 1998 when Chavez first came into power. And today we would like to, talk more about the resistance and the social experiment of the Bolivarian Revolution, especially in its focus to uplift the most marginalized folks in Venezuela to actively participate, what Martha Harnecker described as popular protagonism. And in Venezuela, specifically Afro descendants, Afro-Venezuelans, poor women's engagement in social transformation through the Bolivarian Revolution. As we know that the struggles are not just within the borders of Venezuela, but the types of resistance that Venezuela has been leading around Black liberation extends to the global reparation movement, as well as their leadership in the last 20 years of forging new alliances for economic cooperation and integration between the Caribbean, Latin American, and African diaspora nations. So we have Alejandra Laprea talking today more about the context of U.S. intervention and describe what feminist organizing in Venezuela looks like and why women are defending the Bolivarian Revolution in these hard times. So thank you, Alejandra. You can start.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be able to speak to all of you. Thank you for the previous presentation. I have something written. The Bolivarian Revolution has been around for 20 years, despite the coup in 2002 against Chavez. We are living the current moments of economic, commercial, and financial blockade. From the United States, they are trying to passed legislation against Venezuela, attacking all international law. In the passage of the 20 years, we have seen two bills that have had the title In Defense of Human Rights and Civil Society in Venezuela, 2014, 2016. There have been 6 executive orders emitted, among which they say Venezuela is an unusual and extraordinary threat to the United States. It could be laughable to say that the only country in the continent that has ever entered into a war of aggression would be the country that says this is a threat, that another country is a threat. But this is a threat for our population. The sanctions that are brought to the public opinion as ways of sanctioning the leaders of the revolution who are accused of being corrupt and drug traffickers. But the reality is that those of us who suffer the sanctions are us, the people. As it has been recognized once and before by the international community, all these types of measures are trying to break us by hunger and desperation. From the United States, the violent protests have been systematically financed. They're known as the guarimbas, where they are cutting streets, arson attacks against buildings, and public spaces like hospitals, universities, and libraries, and where Venezuelan men and women have lost their lives in the most horrifying way, burned alive because they look like Chavistas, or having their necks cut by wires tied up at the level of the necks on the street. Also from the north, the Venezuelan opposition is financed, where they lived in golden exile and are received like no one else by governments and economic powers. With all this horror, we are afraid of a civil war in Venezuela. There have been days, months, years that are very difficult. And now the question, why and how do we resist? The why is we find it in all the programs, above all which this was the social debt that Chavez. Okay, why are we resisting? We find that in all the programs, above which all we are in the first stage of the revolution, were designed and executed to end social exclusion. This was the payment of social debt that implemented Commander Chavez. Social debt was added to extremely high illiteracy and exclusion from higher education, lack of electricity and drinking water, and the lack of dignified housing and medical transportation. We started to have a good living, us feeling that we could be in this land and be happy about everything, and knowing that the government, our revolutionary government, had as an objective that we would have better conditions to develop as people. Also, in this process, we have recovered the pride of who we are. Being Afro descendant peoples, an Indian people, a mestizo people of immigrants, a people who are proud of its history, its traditions, and we don't have to bend our head to anyone. We have started to construct positive narratives about who we are, like happy and boisterous people, and that is our strength. We are the people who value friendship, coming together, and the collective, and that's the strength. We are the people that, despite the problems, we prefer to give a happy face and to look for solutions. I sincerely believe that is why we resist, because of the belief that we'll come back and pick up the path towards good living and the reconstruction of an identity and culture free of male chauvinism, capitalism, racism, and colonialism, because of the certainty that even though we have committed some of our own mistakes, the great part of our difficulties are due to the other side, outside of our territory, where they have tried to break us with hunger and uncertainty. that's what the sanctions of the United States and their allies represent for us, because that is a blockade that they have for Venezuela and any country. I always remember the words of Nelida. She was a feminist movement. She was a worker who was around 70 years old and who learned to do something she never thought she could do: read and write, be a worker, and have a job, a good paying job. She also had a private residence, a pension, and someone who would take care of her and who would listen. It was the president, Nelly, that one time said, they thought that they were going to make us go to our knees because of hunger. Hunger? I was hungry with my children before Chavez. More than 50 years I was hungry and no one cared. If there's something we have had as a people in Venezuela, it's hunger. And we do know how to resist hunger, and we are ready to be hungry if that means that we will continue the Bolivarian Revolution. The revolution has been particularly important for women and for the feminist movement in Venezuela. From the very founding document of the Bolivarian Republic Constitution, we have had advances that in any other territory would be far from conquered. The most abundant example is the inclusive language that was included in the Constitution, and it is the official form of speaking in Venezuela. Or the recognition of domestic work, non-paid domestic work, as work that generates wealth, and so social rights must be given to those people who do it. From the 20 years of our socialism has built a permanent reading of the reality that we have been able to understand. And we cannot talk about revolution without including the liberation of women. So since the first time that Chavez declared himself a feminist in 2007, they have been up till the declaration of the revolution as a feminist revolution in 2009, we have been discussing and debating about what really means to be a feminist revolution and to make concrete advances in women's lives. This means that in each step, there will be new challenges, new contradictions in theory and practice among all political actors. We know that the principal battle is changing the common sense, or that for centuries has been established as natural by patriarchal practices. We know that there's a lot to do to make the popular feminism a reality, a lot to build. There's a lot of powerful enemies all over the continent, just like religious fundamentalism or the instrumentalization of our needs and collective struggles for the transnational right. We know that there are battles, and we have to do them simultaneously on the outside and inside of the revolution, within an economic war. We are aware that we have to build a balance between the resistance to war of the fifth generation with advancing structural changes that demand the feminist revolution, the reality of the feminist revolution. For all this, we have taken certain decisions and positions as a movement. First, we are betting on the anti-patriarchal commune and to work directly with the bases as well as within our allied social movements. We cannot make a feminist revolution just feminists. We all have to be working together as peasants and workers. Despite the material conditions, trying to get our daily life fixed, it takes a lot of time and energy, but we still are redoubling our efforts to maintain the constructive from the collective and in the streets. For example, on this 8th of March, we were saying that it's some historic moment where we were threatened with a war, with a military invasion. We were debating if it was important or was it worth it to dream of a new March 8th. The decision was to continue building collectively the March 8th and to do it on the street with an emphasis on popular territory spaces and base ourselves in the decision that, and we said that the premise was that we would not let ourselves be conquered or and that
Okay.
demobilizing would be a defeat. We make a joke, like we like to do, and we said, if the Marines don't come on March 8th, we will have to go to the street. But if for anything else, if they don't come, if the Marines don't come, we will still build our own March 8th. So we fight, resist, and advance. And we have been continuing to meet since then to reprogram, schedule activities or adapt them to the new circumstances. For example, on 8th of March, we had planned to close the day with a party in the public plaza with a party at 5 p.m. After the most recent electrical sabotage, instead of breaking our will, it was able to make us reaffirm ourselves in our principle of the collective, and that the collective is stronger. In these days, without a doubt, we will get over it because of this principle. I personally believe that the Bolivarian Revolution offers Venezuelan feminisms the possibility to think about how we can open the doors to other sectors. I remember that before Chavez declared himself a feminist in March, it was difficult to talk in any space. After Chavez, the revolutionary spaces were forced to listen to us and accept us as a political line, at least for research and formation. From then, we've had radio programs like the one that I'm leading with another colleague on Mujeres en Rebelión, and which has national pickup. The Spider has had one for 9 years. Has had for 9 years a periodic weekly journal. And feminism is included in the programs of the PSUV and social movements. Of course, we know that it can't just be a chance, but they have to be real changes in what is considered common sense of how life is organized, or the economy, the culture, and the state of our revolution. One of the decisions that we have taken is that we cannot continue saying that we're missing things to be able to get total emancipation for women. We have to continue denouncing male chauvinism that is in institutions, programs, and projects of the revolution. One of the other conclusions that is we have to simultaneously advance against patriarchy, capitalism, racism, and colonialism. We are faced with a system of oppression, a very complex system of oppression that regenerates itself and its components. So we cannot fight just against male chauvinism, but also against capitalism, racism, colonialism, and people being machista. Why do we believe the revolution is important? Firstly,
Alejandra, if you can...
we believe that revolution guarantees our lives and our human rights. It guarantees certain security to continue fighting for what we believe in, and to continue fighting for rights and building the good living that the people deserve. For all of us, it's a great responsibility to make the Bolivarian Revolution a reality. We know that this is important not just for the Venezuelan people, because our defeat of our dream would be the symbolic defeat of people all over the world who are fighting. We must show the world that a small country with not more than 30 million people, which is mostly Afro-descendant, Indian, and Mestizo, can think from another place, can make alternative realities to the dominant system, and that gives hope to others. And I think that beyond that, it's the desire of the empire to take our natural resources from the country, and this is the symbolic value that a people like mine is pushing up, and I think that we can do
Gracias,
it. So I think, I know the time is very short, and I want to say that I'm waiting for your questions, and good evening.
Thank you, Alejandra. And folks, please fill out your questions on the Q&A on the link on the bottom. we will have a second opportunity to engage more specifically with all your questions around the current state of the movement and intervention. So next speaker we have is Marcia Olivo. She's the executive director of Miami Worker Center. She's also a Dominican Republic native. She's been recognized for her work as a community organizer and advocate for domestic violence victims. She helped develop the Fem Agenda, a program that centers the lives and experiences of low-income Black and brown women, girls, and femmes in the social justice movement. And the program works to shift power to those most impacted by oppression and exploitation. Marcia will be talking about the war at home, especially how when we look inward, the same mechanisms that are intervening and inside Venezuela, Honduras, and Haiti are the same government. It is the same government that's criminalizing Black and brown communities inside the United States, whether it's state-sanctioned violence through police, ICE, or the military. And Miami Worker Center specifically is waging a campaign to get dignity for incarcerated women in Florida. Incarcerated women in Florida have been denied basic reproductive rights, especially being denied access to hygiene products, and also being subjected to dehumanizing strip searches by male guards. Miami Worker Center has been working on this campaign for a while in a coalition, and beyond this campaign, the Fem Agenda is working towards trying to bring back dignity for Black and brown women inside Florida, whether they're working around housing, access to childcare, access to dignified jobs. So we have Marcia, who will make the connection around what are the conditions faced by communities inside the United States, especially in Florida. What does the long-term vision look like in the struggle, including what's in the Fem Agenda? And especially for Miami Worker Center, how does the local organizing work incorporate grassroots internationalism as we're building out solidarity with other women and femmes around the world? So thank you, Marcia.
Gracias a ustedes y gracias a todas las compañeras y hermanas que han hecho su...
Thank you, and thank you to all of the compañeras for your presentations. And thank you for all of the work that you have been doing.
But I wanted to translate for...
And I'm the executive director of the Miami Worker Center, and all of our work is under a vision which is called the Feminine Agenda, or the Fem Agenda. Fem Agenda. And it's basically the principal ideas is to work against the criminalization of poverty, and a vision. And so as I was saying, all of our work is based in this Agenda Fem. And we want to work for an end to the feminization of poverty. And so we want to build out our path to end the criminalization of poverty. So we work in prisons for incarcerated women, and we're working for their dignity to be able to have sanitary pads. This is something very incredible, something that we're struggling for. Then we can't believe we have to struggle for this. And so when we began our work, we began to recruit people, and we had meetings. One of the beginning points that we found, the common points that we found with our people, was that first, everyone that are in power, that we're seeing that's happening in the world, is that people who are in power, they have power. They have political power, economic power. Basically, generally, we can see that they're people who have an agenda that is focused on attacking people who are in situations of poverty, and that's why they're in power. And so that's how they're making their political and economic power grow. And so they're exploiting people also, and attacking and destroying. Part of their agenda is also to destroy and to attack people, and so we are against this agenda on every level. And this is something we're seeing on the world level. And sincerely, we begin this process with the people that we're organizing, that they could make the connection that what is happening at a global level is what is happening here in the United States. And basically, the conclusion that we arrived at was that what's happening in other parts of the world is not different than what's happening here in the United States, right? In which we see that constantly the people that are organizing, the people that are resisting, the people that are struggling for our rights to self-determination, for our rights to live with dignity, for our rights to have our humanity recognized in our multiple identities that form who we are in our lives, that these people are constantly being attacked in some way or another. And so we see that the United States in general, in all parts where people are being exploited to make profit from them, we see that generally the United States has their hands stuck in there somehow. We see that in Central America and South America and Haiti. You see wherever there's this kind of human rights abuse, you're going to see the United States involved. And so basically, the argument that they use is that, or that we see manifested, is that the United States in these places basically says that they're supporting the governments that are exploiting, killing their people, exploiting natural resources, establishing agendas against women's rights to self-determination over their families, over their bodies, etc. And so, and at the same time, in the same way that there is agendas against community rights, against the rights of the LGBTQ communities. And so at the same time, they're supporting these governments that are doing this work. And doing all of this with a purpose. The reason the United States is supporting these governments is because basically there are agreements that permit the United States to have access to these resources and to control the self-determination of these countries. And in the case of the countries that don't give access to the United States to exploit their resources and to intervene in their right to self-determination, what we see then is that the United States supports people who from within those states, groups or organizations that from within those countries are trying to destroy what's happening, or trying to destroy the governments of those countries, because actually what the United States wants is to form alliances with governments that permit it and give it access to control, to colonize, with the objective of exploiting resources and augmenting the power of the United States. And so basically, in this struggle And again, it's not very different than what is happening here in the United States. One of the things, for example, that we here in Miami see is that, for example, Miami is the point of entry for many countries from the global south. And so when we begin to organize and do this organizing work and grassroots organizing work here, we see that it's very difficult many times because basically the same people that I'm talking about that are controlling, that have economic and political power, these are the same people who also control generally the media and communications and control mass communications that determine how the message is sold about what is happening, or determine the narrative that is presented to people in terms of what's happening at the global level and in the countries in which the United States is intervening. So, for example, in Miami, we have a big community from Venezuela, from people from Haiti, people from Nicaragua, people from many countries, right? And so these people are controlling us, and they're making it very difficult for us to organize these people because, or not organize, but it's easy to organize, but when you're talking about their life here, making your life better here in the United States, right? There's a lot of domestic workers from other countries, for example, and so it's not difficult to organize them around that. But what becomes difficult is to construct solidarity around what is happening in other countries and for them to understand that what is happening here, what is happening in your country or in another country is no different than what is happening here, that it's exploitation, that it's mistreatment, that it's violations of human rights. And so we have to be cautious when we do this work to change these narratives and to challenge these arguments of the government, because soon you'll hear the argument in the United States. It's going to be using the same tactics where they're killing people, where they're disappearing people, etc., etc. And so I'm one of these people. This is going to be a little less confrontational, but many of these tactics here in the United States have not been so severe. For example, we see that the way that the government So I'm sorry, I was basically saying that, like the governments that are in poder, that are controlling, that also control the narratives. And so our work in organizing is trying to organize our people, that it's not sufficient to fight to improve your living conditions here in the United States, but you also have to improve the conditions of people in the countries that the United States is intervening in, and to show solidarity and understanding what is happening in other countries, because up to this point, we understand that we see that here in the United States, it's not just the part of our government, it's the same arguments that they're using in other countries. But if we don't have an analysis that is intersectional, a larger political analysis, including of our own country, and the understanding the basis of power and the tactics that the governments are using in different countries, the same tactics soon are going to be used against people here in the United States, just as much as they're used in foreign governments now to abuse people all over the planet. And so we see that this is manifested in the tactics that we see how people are incarcerating people, criminalizing people. So it's already manifesting in governmental tactics, right? Or they're deported from the country when they begin to organize, right? There are people who would say, and that's why I would say that I have a position that's a little bit more moderate, that in fact these tactics are happening here, and we see that it's happened in Missouri with the Black Lives Matter movement, when many of the activists that were there were in very strange conditions. And so some people say they're already using these tactics here in the United States. And so I know that time is running out, but we also see that here in the United States, for example, one of the things that we see is that, for example, here, many times the government of the United States, one of the things that it does that is the same, because they control these narratives, they control the mass means of communication. In Miami, we see that it's daily. If I turn on the television, right now when the news comes on, the first thing I'm going to listen to is how bad the Venezuelan government is. People are dying from hunger. This is happening. At the same time, the same news is going to be talking about the government of Haiti, about saying things, supporting the government in Haiti and against the poor people in Haiti. And so what I'm trying to say is the government of Haiti or the government of the United States, I'm not, basically the media is saying that those governments are better than the government of Venezuela. So at the same time, this is happening to control the narratives and to have access to power and to the mass media. We see that here in the United States, the ultra-right utilizes, I'll give you an example, how they utilize in the religions. They use religion to support Republican candidates. And this passes all the time. There's a candidate against the right of women for their right to self-determination. And what we see on the part of the government of the United States and generally is that they support ultra-right movements, or they don't offer any criticism of these ultra-rights movements. So basically, the United States does the same thing internationally that it does here at home against our people. And we, as people who are working for social justice, it is our responsibility in our organizing work to create consciousness, to conscientize our people here so that they can have an analysis and to make the connection between what is happening and basically to know that our basically our approach or our way of organizing has to include an analysis that is sufficiently, and we also have to let our people know that basically we in the Miami Workers Center, we need to be able to develop an ideology which is key for us to be able to establish and do a permanent, long-term, transformative organizing work. So this is, we don't apologize for that, and we don't apologize for this work of consciousness raising and ideological formation. We believe that it's important for us to create the permanent changes and transformative changes that we're seeking. And it's also key for our work to let people know let our members know that forming solidarity against what is happening against the people of Venezuela, the people of Honduras, the people of Haiti, etc., is important, and that we have to defend what is happening, because we have to support groups in Venezuela that are fighting in resistance, or in Honduras, or in Haiti, or in whatever country it is. They're also being persecuted here in the United States. And at the same time, we have to let them know that we're fighting against imperialism, United States imperialism, but also let our people know that we can't fight against imperialism we're fighting against imperialism, but at the same time, we have to take the position, because we can't support, for example, Maduro or any other person in a position of government who doesn't have an agenda to fight for women's rights. And so that's something that we're very clear on, that we have to, our position with Venezuela or any other government is to let them know that we are against militarization, we are against U.S. interventionism, and people need to be able to decide their own right and exercise their own right to self-determination. And that is our position, which doesn't mean that we're not for Maduro or any other politician. We will be in favor of Maduro or any other politician as long as he has an agenda and a politic of defending people's right to self-determination, of creating spaces for women to have the right to decide and create programs that eliminate political, economic, and social differences, and permit women and LGBTQ community members, etc., to have access to have a space at the table, and to create an agenda that allows these people their dignity, their humanity.
Thank you, Marcia. We have to wrap up and move on to the next Q&A. Thank you so much for bringing it all together, especially around the war abroad and war at home. So we have some questions.
Gracias a todos.
So just in terms of technical question, Giannetti, would you like to, we lost our phone connection with our representative, Gislaine. Giannetti, if you want to speak to her directly here to see if she can get connected back on the phone. Gislaine?
Is on mute.
Hello. Allô?
Oui.
Gislaine ou là?
Moi là, oui.
Okay, très bien. Now I can listen to Gislaine, guys.
I think we can just do some consecutive interpretation here for when the questions.
So, if you don't mind, guys, I would suggest to start with Gislaine Q&A, because in Haiti, maybe her communication is unstable, you know, because in any time we can lose her again.
All right, thank you. So we have some questions that were raised.
Okay, Gislaine, you have quelques questions you posé.
D'accord, m'attends yo.
Okay, she said yes, she's agree, she's just waiting for you guys.
Mm-hmm. So
what are the questions though?
Gislaine, what does the current state of the social movement and U.S. intervention look like? I know you are about to explain that.
Situation.
So if you can just briefly talk about it.
But I miss some of your words. I miss some of your words because some of your words has been cut.
Yes, the question was around U.S. intervention and the current state of the movement. What does the priorities of the movement struggle look like today with MPP?
OK. Donc, il pose une question sur des cas rapidement parler de rôle États-Unis, intervention États-Unis actuellement, la situation qui a passé en Haïti et qui ça, mouvement paysan Papay fait.
Attendez, t'as bien répondre, bien content pour me capable répondre question ça.
She said she will be glad to respond that question.
Non, t'as quitté ma quitté question ça que t'as capable dire responsable MPP après répondre question ça. Nous t'as nous voyer en site web MPP pour nous et puis nous t'as MPP direction MPP t'as répondre question ça.
Okay, she said she would be glad, but it will be much better if she could provide you guys with the information of the staff or the director of MPP, because the staff, the director of MPP has more knowledge and will be provide the best answer to that specific question. Okay, there is another question. What next? There's another question for Gislaine. Hay una otra pregunta para Gislaine?
We have a general question, and maybe Gislaine can start since we have her on consecutive interpretation.
OK, li gon général, question générale, yo pral pose question, mais on capable bay réponse. OK, go ahead, please.
And actually, this question, after Gislaine is done, is for all the panelists. What does it take to, what do you think will, it takes to build a stronger alliance of solidarity among grassroots movements within the United States and outside of the United States?
OK, li di ki sa ou pense ki ta dwe fet pou ta gon meilleure solidarité entre organisation de base yo kap travail, soit en dans États-Unis ou bien en dehors États-Unis. Question ki sa ki ta dwe fet pour que grassroots organisation de base yo te capable vin pi fort.
Moi je pense ça qui pour fait qui pour permettre que organisation de base vienne plus fort, c'est
what has to be done solidarité. Okay, she think that what has to be done in order to strengthen the grassroots is definitely solidarity, togetherness. On met parler, Gislaine, on met parler.
C'est solidarité, toute organisation yo, toute organisation qui est dans le mouvement social là, qui doit faire
solidarité. Many organizations or all those organizations that are participating in building the social movement. Et on met parler, Gislaine, on met continuer. Gislaine, on met continuer.
Oui. Alors, par rapport avec situation de capable dire que Venezuela a trouvé la donne.
Okay, now she said, with respect of the current situation of the Bolivar. Où va parler? Yeah, the communication has been freeze, guys, so I don't know.
Well, while Gislaine is going to get back on the tech, hopefully her screen will unfreeze. We would like to open that question to some of the other panelists. So maybe first Carla?
Perfect. So in this part of the question and answers, I can summarize a little bit better everything that I'd like to say. And for this issue of what we can do to make it bigger, this work of unifying movements, Well, I'd like to start saying that for me and for us in my community, imperialism means paternalism. And the father is always saying what needs to be done. But we have a differences in our way of thinking and our way of living, but also in the way in the things we eat. So this allows us, excuse me, this allows us to separate this. And what are we really needing? We want to visualize what is really happening, to have a campaign that would go against the means of communication and the press that says how we need to act and how we need to think. These are the press that is paid and is obviously goes on the side of the person and the organizations that pay the most. And they don't care how many people die or whatever calamities may happen in the world, because they are making money. So we need to visualize this, and we need to talk about the reality that's happening in Latin America. We have to say that, for example, in Honduras, there is no government that is recognized there's a government that is recognized by the United States. There's in the U.S. Embassy, there is a business attaché who came to the zone where they were doing the vote counts in the last election to name the president who currently is in power in Honduras, who is Juan Orlando Hernandez. This is a person who did not win. But when the business attaché is not the ambassador, because Honduras was not recognized after the coup, this business attaché said that the president is Juan Orlando Hernandez. So we need to visualize that they're killing our freedom. They are taking away our territory. We need to show all the corruption that's happening and how our hands and the pockets of being filled of all those connected to paternalism and oligarchy. We also need accompaniment. A movement alone cannot make an echo. Other movements make the echo. So we can get around the very important work while respecting each one's differences. Because when a movement, for example, in Cuba, let's put out a name of one country in particular, it's grown and it knows how to move around. If it comes to a movement that's basically burgeoning, like in Honduras, and it says like how we're going to move your movement, we actually need to see what the movement needs. We can identify our differences, which are the things that are really going to make a movement in Latin America much bigger. And so finally, those who really have the economic capacity to finance development projects within these movements, which are emerging in Latin America, that should be welcomed. There is a big problem that is for the world. The UN Nations has said it. We're going to be out of food in 15 years. If there are peoples that are already dying of hunger, in 15 years, the entire world will run out of food. So the Garifuna people are coming back to the lands. We're coming back to the earth. But the oligarchy and the imperialism is trying to stop us to go back to the earth. But if we really are able to recover the land and territory, and we are able to produce, we will be able to produce food for everyone. So there is a space where there could be a little bit of financing. I could give advice to other movements in Latin America. It's not just out of our own communities that we're going to get what we need for our people to live. So just basically those three things. We need to visibilize, accompany, and get funding for common goods, common ends. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Would any Marcia or Alejandra also like to answer the question around building better grassroots solidarity across movements? Alejandra, are you still there?
Yes, this is Marcia. I think in the United States, oh, okay.
So we have to, what we have to do is
strong solidarity movement. We have to create common strategies to fight against the press. But more than anything, I think that the most important thing is that we need to be consistent in our solidarity, right? And when I say consistent, we can't, for example, just organize and fight when a situation is affecting ourselves here in the United States. But when the same thing is happening in Honduras or Venezuela, we don't protest. So that just makes us into hypocritical people. So we need to be consistent, and we have to develop common strategies about how we will show solidarity and be consistent in the manifestations of our solidarity.
okay.
Thank you. Gislaine?
Gracias.
Gislaine, would you like to, you got cut off, if you wanted to continue answering that question of how do we build solidarity, grassroots solidarity across movements better?
Perdón, creo que estoy pensando que dos personas están hablando a la vez.
Allô, Gislaine?
Allô?
Oui, alors, yo dit comme ça, qu'on
Oui.
a la soute qu'à continuer à répondre questions sans penser, organisation de base, yo ta dû faire pour yo venir plus fort, pour yo résister à la globalisation néolibérale.
Ok, alors, ça m'a pensé, et action, nous devons, organisation de base, nous devons mener, qui capable de rendre plus fort.
Okay, according to Gislaine, the grassroots, what the grassroots have to do?
On sait toujours continuer, pour nous continuer bataille contre le capitalisme.
They have to continue to challenge. They have to continue the work to challenge capitalism.
Pour nous capables, faut continuer à résister, continuer faire toute organisation de base, continuer à résister, et puis faire solidarité yon avec l'autre.
All the grassroots needs to continue political resistance and also show solidarity among them.
Pour nous capables faire révolution tourner en réalité.
In order to make the revolution a reality.
Okay, parce que capable dire nous tout en mouvement social, nous toute nos organisations de base, nous avons même problème et la victime même situation Yon nan action que nous capable mener qui pour permettre nous résister, qui capable permettre que nous faire révolution tourner en réalité, c'est solidarité yon avec l'autre.
Okay, she said that she think that all the grassroots, they share the same problem. They have been facing the same challenge, so they have a moral obligation to come together in order to fight against imperialism and capitalism.
Thank you.
Lidou, merci un peu, Gislaine.
D'accord.
We'll have Alejandra is actually not on the Zoom, but she's still connected on the Spanish conference line. We would like to lastly hear from Alejandra to respond to the question.
Oh. I gave a the interpreter is not understanding.
Well,
please wait.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're sharing is that there's a reading of it's the same thing that's been happening for years in the countryside, and I always tell the story that I always recognize when I leave the country when they're talking about my country because I recognize what we need is for people to help us with the media.
Hello, Gislaine?
To correct this misinformation. In Venezuela, we have a lot of material in Spanish, but it's very difficult for us to translate it to other languages. Other languages that dominate the media outside of our country. So our concrete proposal is that there could be groups organizing information from social movements within our countries to translate it from Spanish into other languages. And so there's also because for us as a people, this is something that's very important. We say that solidarity it's very important for people to know what's happening on the streets and to understand what's at risk, and specifically what's happening with Venezuela. As a people, what we are asking is for our right to receive we want people to know.
Allô, Jean-Eddy?
Yeah, Gislaine ou là?
Moi là.
Okay.
The interpreter is going to pause for a second.
Sorry, so I think due to time, we should be wrapping up soon. We will give, we'll send out all of the panelists' contact information and the organization info to you all, plus the recording of the webinar and the interpretation lines. So folks can continue to follow up and build with our panelists. We hope that this is the beginning of a conversation, not just the one-time thing. So thank you, panelists, for enduring the technological difficulties. Thank you to the interpreters for enduring and making sure language justice happens. I just want to invite folks to the Grassroots Global Justice Alliance, especially the members, to join the working group. We have Ramon, who's just going to make a short pitch before we end the webinar.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ramon Mejia. I'm the field organizer with Bow Face and also a member of the coordinating committee. So we have 3 focus groups that we'd like to invite our GGJ members to join. One of them is the Grassroots Feminism and Gender Justice Working Group. That GGJ launched the U.S. chapter for a World March on Women back in 2014. The World March of Women is an international feminist movement that was started 20 years ago. So this working group is where we deepen our political understanding of grassroots feminism and the importance of bringing this perspective to our local work and campaigns. The next call is going to be on March 22nd. Please reach out to Ana Orozco for more details. That'll be on March 22nd. The other working group that we have is anti-militarism, which came out of a 2008 member assembly where we wanted to organize grassroots to challenge police, ICE, and other state vigilante violence against Black and Brown communities and Indigenous people in the United States. So we'd love if you could join this group to struggle and interconnected struggle against U.S. militarism and aggression globally. The next call is going to be either on April 10th, between April 10th to April 12th. So please contact Jaren for more details on that. And then the last working group that we have is Global Wellbeing Working Group. It's one of the longest projects that GGJ's membership has, where we have been involved in strategic coordination with global popular movements involved in climate and environmental justice. In 2019, we relaunched a regular working group calls as a place to debrief and collectivize our learnings from international delegations and international movement building. We have been meeting during one of the learning circles during the CJA member convening in Albuquerque, with including allies from Brazil and Nigeria. So after the CJA member convening, our next call will be between April 24th, 25th, and 26th. And please reach out to Jaren for more details. If you have any interest about any of the working groups, please reach out to Anna or Jaren or Sunyoung. Appreciate it.
So thank you so much, Ramon, for the GGJ membership pitch. We highly encourage all GGJ members to participate in one of those working groups. And if you're a new organization that's not part of Grassroots Global Justice Alliance yet, and you work with a grassroots base inside the United States, organizing around any of broad social justice issues, and are interested in applying, please contact me or any of the organizers, Sunyoung at ggjalliance.org, SUNYOUNG at ggjalliance.org, and we will love to, have folks join and also participate in planning these kinds of webinars and continuing grassroots internationalism through these kinds of solidarity webinars. So thank you, speakers, panelists, interpreters, as well as the participants for enduring with us today. And John Eddie, if you want to explain to Gislaine, because we have lost a phone connection with her, if you want to explain to her.
Okay.
The webinar is wrapping up.
Ok, Gislaine, yo di ke yo pral fini avec vidéo ça. Alors, yo tap ba informasyon sou groupe que yo gen qui est le GPP, qui c'est Global GGG Alliance, alors yo t'a dit, qui travaille yo fait, yo t'a parlé de différents prochains meetings que yo gagné, et puis yo t'a encouragé monde qui peut comme membre organisation pour venir faire yo membre.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, she said yes. Oh, sure.
C'est intéressant.
She said it's very interesting what you are doing, guys. But may I ask you also a question, guys?
Janet, would you just can you interpret to Gislaine for just to thank her for her participation as well?
Okay, li do kon sa merci en pile pour participation ou Gislaine a souhait avec yo.
Oui, merci tout. Merci yo même tout. Parce que yo te choisi, nous choisi MPP pour nous être capable participer dans la conférence à soir.
Okay, she said thank you to you guys also for having chosen MPP Movement of the Peasant of Papay to be part of this evening conversation.
Nous souhaitons nous toujours qu'une belle relation.
She would like to keep in touch with you.
Et puis question yo pas répondre non, yo capable voyer pour MPP et responsable MPP a répondre question ça.
So if you have any other question, guys, the question that she wasn't able to answer, you can send the question to the directory of MPP and they will be happy to answer you guys.
Merci en pile pour initiative là.
Oh, thank you so much for that, for this initiative.
Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful work too.
You also have a question you were trying to ask?
I have a book manuscript. I'm doing a research book manuscript on civil society and the politics of memory. I do research on grassroots civic society organization and the connection to citizenship, human dignity, and democracy. So I'm wondering, where do you find the funding, the finance to operate as an organization, as a grassroots organization?
Well, John Andy, I can say this.
Yeah. Okay. Did you hear my question?
Yes, John Andy, I think we can follow up with you. I think that's probably more than we can answer now. This is Shah, the Deputy Director, and be happy to talk with you about that afterwards, after the webinar.
Thank you all.
Thanks everybody for being on. It's great to see you all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you to the interpreters. Thank you, Nico and Rachel, who stuck with all of the tech difficulties. Thanks everybody for staying up late.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bring our love back to Miriam, Carla, and everybody at OFRANEH.
Bye bye. En forme.